my camera just started by itself. I went to go turn it on and it turned on by itself. It is Thursday, May 30th, and it is 6:33 p.m. It is pouring rain here in Texas. I mean, it's like flooding. You guys, I went to go out and run an errand, and it was raining. I mean, it was pouring out, but I'm like, that's okay. I can drive in the rain. Like, I don't care about that. Oh my God, I got stuck. Like, there's flooding everywhere. And I live on the country roads and stuff like that, you know? And so I went through what I thought, because I was like, okay, wait, let me give me a minute. I used to live in Arizona, and they have a stupid law about driving through the floods, and I would always make fun of those people. I was one of those people today. So, but I got out. I didn't have to call and get rescue, but I was driving in I have a little Ford Fiesta, and I'm driving my little Ford Fiesta, and I go through what I thought was a puddle. It was a little bit deeper than a puddle, and I was like, wow. And I had to try, and I kept flooding in my car, and it was just like, oh my God. But I did manage to get myself out, but I was just praying, going, God, how am I going to get out of this one? So it was not very pleasant, so I just turned around and came home. And I was like, and I talked about the area I was in. I was like, and anybody's here, don't go out. It's flooded everywhere. Just don't do it. So I'm home. And I'm so glad where I live there's gravel, because most places have dirt. I mean, I'm out in the country roads, and I'm just with my little Ford Fiesta, and I'm like, oh God, please line me up with a truck at some point, because I'm going to definitely need it when I move on my land, because I want to have a way to get in and out. So I'm like, oh my God. Anyways, that's besides the point. I don't even know why I'm on here. I'm not even kidding. I have been going spiritual for the past 3 or 4 days, a lot, and really deep, and really getting into it, and going through some things and some battles and just stuff going on here and there, and I'm just going, holy cow. But spiritually, I'm just going, holy cow, you know? So I made a post today, and again, I'm sorry if you're not on my Facebook. I have, those were my peeps. They're all all on my Facebook. So then I come on here, and you guys are like, well, what are you talking about? Because we're not friends with you on Facebook. I know. So I try to explain things, but I wish that I could read what I wrote, because I went spiritual. And my head was on a whole nother level. And so I had talked about a whole bunch of things, but all of it made sense to a whole bunch of different people on a different level. And usually when I do this, and I write it, and I do whatever, I stay spiritual for a little while and do whatever, and then I take the time, and I just thank God for giving me the words and showing me what I needed to do and what I needed to say, and then I'll go back and read what I wrote, because a lot of times I don't know what I wrote, because I'm spiritual. I'm gonna try and see if I can explain that to you. I think that's where God's going with this. So I don't always, I know what I'm writing when I'm writing it. But then when you come down from being spiritual, you kind of go, did I say that? Is that what I meant? You surprise yourself, I guess is what I want to say. So I don't know how to explain this yet, but I'm going to try. So I wrote about the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and I was writing about the Trinity. And I was explaining how the Father, who's obviously is God is the Father. I say I don't even know how to explain this. I can't explain this. I should have just read what I wrote. I'm figuring that out as I'm doing this, on how to go about doing that. And so I'm going to have to do this differently. And I'm going to have to figure that out. So let me just go forward a little bit here. Let me try to explain to you what it means to go spiritual. Okay? God, please give me the words to help explain this. Let's start with gym people. People who work out. Okay? People who are active. People who exercise. People who are wild children. People who like to live on the edge. People, okay, so let's go there with being spiritual. Okay? When you go to work out, some people do what's called a pre-workout. Maybe you're not feeling good. Maybe you don't want to do it today. Maybe you just don't have the energy to do it. whatever the case may be, you take what's called a pre-workout. The pre-workout, if you do it natural or you get it from natural ingredients and things like that, it gives you a boost. It's like taking a Red Bull. Okay? But on a healthier level of a Red Bull. It's a healthy version of a Red Bull. It's a pre-workout. You go into the gym and you are busting it out. And you are lifted. It's so you can either have it healthy and natural, or you can have steroids that are illegal, or you get what I'm saying? So there's different things when you get pre-workouts, okay? So you're going to the gym and you're working out and you're doing your thing, right? Great. Okay. So you're doing it. Well, sometimes you find an energy, or you find a level, or you find a new strength that you never had before. And so you are lifting like you've never lifted before. You're doing cardio like you've never done it before. You're just going another step ahead. You're just going further. You are pushing your limits. You are doing what you can do. And it's like a euphoria. It's like a high, you all of your, there's a scientific thing to that. They talk about what you're releasing and things. And I don't know all the scientific methods, so I'm sorry. But I know that those that do can maybe say something about that. But you get what I'm saying? Like, you have all those things in you that get you going. You know what I mean? And so you are chemically doing something to yourself to change your mind, to connect to your nerves and connect to everything, to do something differently. Okay? So some people take a pre-workout. Some people don't take a pre-workout. Some people just go in, they bust it out, they do what they have to do, and they mentally are changing their mind. They're mentally going, I can do this, I can do better. The pre-workout is a great way. I'm not saying anything either way. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you still have that mindset, you're still going, but it's like a different focus. When they, kids in college, a lot of people take Adderall. They took Adderall. It's like a different clearing. You're clearer. You see things differently. You're more focused. And so there's a pharmaceutical for that. There's this, there's that. So there's a whole bunch of different ways that you can go about to do things and see things differently, correct? Okay. When you go spiritually, you do the same thing. Your pre-workout is your prayer. Your pre-workout is you focusing on God and going, okay, God, what do you need from me today? Where are we going? What are we doing? And you just spend time with him and you talk to him and you go on prayer drives and you do this and you do that and you just kind of, you just get molded with him and you get this and you get that and then he shows you and you watch things and you watch sermons and you read your Bible and you do all these things to get you prepared for what he has next for you. You're learning. You're being taught. Same with your workouts. You start somewhere in the gym and then you figure out how to use the weights. And so then once you figured out how to use the weights, you want to use the weights more often because you don't feel so stupid and you don't look so dumb doing them. And then maybe you go in a gym or you're doing it from the privacy of your home or whatever the case may be. But when you first walk into the gym, you don't want to go in there because you don't know how to use the equipment. So you don't want to go into church because you don't know how to find God. And you don't know who Jesus is and you don't know what the Bible is. So you're walking in the church feeling stupid because everybody else sees something that you don't, or everybody else has something that you don't. Are you getting where I'm going with this? But once you go to the gym and someone says, hey, do you know how to use that? No, let me show you how to use it. Hey, have you ever been to church? No. Cool, come and sit with me. I don't know how else to get people to understand from different perspectives. But when you have a spiritual gift and you go higher, there is a clarity that is so crisp, that is so defined, that is so freeing. Your body feels so light. There isn't a heaviness in you. And you just kind of go, and you're free to flow, and you're free to say what you need to say without feeling, what is everybody going to think? What is everybody going to say? What if this isn't right? What if this isn't of God? What if? What if? But when you're up here and you're doing it, you're just doing it. You're not carrying, that's not a thought in your head of whether that's right or wrong, or whether or not, you just have a confidence that it's everything that you're being told makes sense. And it flows. Writers do this. They have what's called writer's block. And then sooner or later they're typing, and the next thing you know, it's 5-6 hours in and they've got 50 chapters done, but they have to go away. They have to go. This is why a lot of writers go out into a cabin and they go and spend time by themselves to get themselves prepared to write a book. We isolate ourselves to get prepared for what God has for us. But we have to practice that, and in order to do that, we spend time with God. And when he says serve, we serve. When he says lead, we lead. When he says be still, we be still. When you work out, I tell people all the time, I loved hurting. It's a good hurt after workout. It hurts so good, right? I always say that. It hurts so good. If you know that you worked out a muscle or muscles and you have a hard time blow drying your hair, right? And lifting your arms up, you're like, oh my God, that hurts so good. Or anything. I mean, you go into the bathroom and you have to sit down after doing a bunch of squats for days. And you're like, I could barely sit down and get up on the toilet. Y'all, it hurts so bad. But you came back for more. You came back for more pain because it hurt so good. Welcome to being a Christian believer. It hurts so good. You now crave the valley moments because you're going, what are you going to show me? What are we doing in this? And where are we going in this? Because I am so ready for you to show me. I am so ready for you to humble myself, because the fact that you brought me up here means there's something way down here that I've got to figure out and learn. And the more deep and higher I go with him, the deeper I'm going within myself to find out who I am and know who I am and hold that integrity and that grounding and that belief in who I am. I don't question my spiritual gifts because they are a gift. And as you're doing your journey, and as you're seeing my journey, and as we're going in this together, we are seeing gifts. And we are seeing blessings. And for some, they're seeing miracles. But it's not in our timing, it's in God's timing. So we have to go through a process. We have to go through the fire. We have to go into the lion's den. We have to be in prison. We have to do a bunch of things. But some of those things we do to ourselves, don't we? We imprison ourselves with our fears and our anxieties and things like that. So we do that part to ourselves. We dig a hole so deep that we end up in a dungeon that we can't get out of, and we're in a lion's den and we have no way to get out of it but to go to God, but to pray it out. Every single person, every single story in the Bible has one common denominator: God. They all had a different circumstance. They all had a different way they heard him. They all had a different way they saw him. They all had a different miracle, blessing. They all had a different perspective, a different idea, a different way, a different belief. But who, when it was all said and done, did they rely on? God. And the more that they did that, the more crazy people started to say that they looked. The more witchcraft people wanted to say that they had. The more they either were drawn to them, they were scared of them, they were this, they were that. There were a whole bunch of things to this, correct? Is that not the Bible we're all reading? I'm just putting stuff out there, food for thought. You have to interpret this yourself. You have to make your own choices. This is your journey. This is whatever you're getting out of it. This is for however you want to see this. Whatever's helping you, whatever's not helping you, I don't know. But it's helping me, and we're all seeing that. Be willing. Be a vessel. Open your mind, open your heart, and God can use you as a vessel. And that's one of the things I said in my post. I could go real deep, you guys. I could spend a lot of time going really deep. And I just go, I'm not this smart, you guys. I'm really not. If people who know me every day go, oh my God, like I'm really not. I'm loud. I'm at work now, and I'm on my 4th day of doing my job. And for those of you that don't know, I work at a camp, like 2 minutes from my house now. I quit my corporate job. I quit my job on the spot. I did not want to do it anymore. I was not feeling it. I was not having it anymore. I was not feeling good. I didn't like it. And I said, this is not for me anymore. I said, where are we going, God? And so the same day that I quit, I got a job at a summer camp working in a kitchen, and I love cooking. And a lot of people know that about me. That's like very therapeutic for me, and it's something that I absolutely love is cooking. And I used to meal prep when I worked at a gym, and so I meal prep for gym members and things like that. And so that I get to be creative, and I get to do my thing. And so I'm really, really excited, and I'm learning from a chef who comes from Italy and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, so it's a church camp, and we feed 600 kids breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. And right now, it's the calm before the storm. Camp actually starts next week. And so we were doing what's called the American Warriors for parents and kids and things, families who have lost people in the wars and things like that. And so we host them, and they come out for a whole week, and they get spoiled, and they get the best of the best, and they get the highest quality of everything. And we thank them for their service from their family members. And so it's an event that we do. And so this is the calm before the storm. And so I was brought in to learn, so I knew where everything was, so I could understand how they do things on a smaller scale, so that when it comes to being the higher scale, I am already equipped and ready, and I can dive in and I can help, and I'm not a nuisance, and I'm not taking my time, and I'm not like, where's this and where's that? Because it gets so hectic, nobody has time to train, and then everybody gets frustrated. So you got to come in before the storm so that you are equipped and ready when the storm comes. Whew, this is getting good, you guys. So I work there. I went from working full-time in a corporate job, making really good money, to working part-time at a summer camp. If that tells you anything about the financial situation, where I said, okay, God, I'm going in faith. I live in an RV. I live a simple life, but that doesn't mean that my bills are simple. I'm trying to work on that. And so finances is the thing that I'm working on, and I've been very open about that, because I also want to see what God does in that. And so, we're going to test this, and so I am humbly living financially the way that I need to, until I can get my act together financially, because that's something I have to work on. So I have to put the work in. I can't just go, give me money, God. It doesn't work like that. I have to put the work in, So that's what I'm doing. But that's the same thing as going spiritual. You got to put the work in it. You got to spend time with God. You got to understand Him. You've got to read. You got to know, so that when the storms come, you're ready for them. So that when you're in a leadership position and things are under pressure and something happens and it's like major and it's chaotic, you're the calm in the storm. You're the first responder. You're the one they go to. Right? You're the leader. You're the man in uniform. You're the one. You're the authority. You're that. You get what I'm saying? And so, but you got to work to all of that. You've got to earn that. You got to get there. You got to do that. So you got to put the work in. You know what I mean? So I decided to go on something more that creative and something more that I enjoy. And I want to see where God takes me in this, because I think that it's really, really cool. And I'm learning from some top chefs and 2 sous chefs. And so they're very patient. They are very kind. And so far they're saying, we haven't had to teach you anything yet. And so I just keep getting thrown in with the sous chefs, and they're just like, we want her. We'll take her, you know? And so and so it's working, and it's amazing, and I'm having so much fun with it. And everybody there's a blast, and we listen to music, and we rock out, and we have a good time, and we joke. And so day 4 of me working there, guess what my nickname is? Katrina. Hurricane Katrina. If you know me, that totally fits me. And so I'm just like, wow, you know, like I come in like a hurricane, you know, but in a good way. I mean, they're not making fun of me in a bad way. They're just like, you have so much energy. And I do, and I'm loud, and I am. And it's great because my chef is Italian, and he's loud as well. And his wife works there and goes, there's 2 of you now? Sorry. And I go, oh, we're in trouble. So it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun so far, and I'm enjoying it. And so that's all that matters, is that you're enjoying what you're doing, right? And everything else will fall into place, and you are bringing in good spirits. And there was one of the girls there that I met yesterday, and I was sitting down, and her and I were having lunch together, and she said, tell me about you. And she said it very curiously. You know what I'm saying? And I said, and I'm like, what does she mean by that? Like, she's talking spiritually? Like, where's she going with this, you know? And I said, well, what do you want to know? And she goes, are you spiritual? First thing out of her mouth. And I go, yes, I'm an empath. She goes, I knew it. She goes, when you walked in the door, I said, she has a glow to her that I've never seen before. I can't make this up. And I went, holy cow. And her and I started talking and hitting it off, and animals she's attracted to, this and that, blah, 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 the whole bitch. I saw her this morning. She ran up to me. She gave me a hug, and I mean, it was like she found someone who got her. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, holy cow. You know, and it was very humbling for me. I don't know how else to word that. That I watched somebody else glow because they saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. So when someone sees something in you that you don't see in yourself, don't get angry. Don't hurt them. Don't be upset with them, and don't use them, and don't abuse them, or make it look like, oh, I got a good one here. She's weak and I can manipulate her. Don't do that. Just move on if you're not happy with it, or just don't care, but don't hurt other people to make your point. Been on both sides of this, y'all. I'm not preaching from somewhere holier than now. A lot of you know my journey. A lot of you know my testimony. I can just now tell you from the other side, but give you an example from that side. Because I see 2 sides of everything. I don't know how else to explain this to you all. My life is wild. My journey has been insane. But I'm solid, and I'm whole, and I'm strong, and I'm alone, and I'm okay with that. I would rather be alone than deal with what I was dealing with that wasn't right. But you have to get to that place. You have to get to that point. There's an in-between where you've been in chaos and being alone. So when you're in chaos and then you're alone real quick, it's very scary. It's abandonment. It's rejection. It's very, very scary place to be in. So you cling back and you go back to what you knew because that was comfortable. Because getting out of your uncomfortable zone is too much. It's too quiet. It doesn't feel right. So normal doesn't feel right, or what society, I guess should say, calls normal doesn't feel right. So you go back and forth to what you know. So your body does the same thing, right? As you're healing, this is what's happening to you, right? But then you go back to it another time and you like that feeling better than where you were on the uncomfortable. I'm in the comfortable zone. So now you're in the uncomfortable zone, but the more you do it, the more comfortable the uncomfortable zone becomes. And the more that was comfortable becomes uncomfortable now. Makes sense? And that happens in healing. You know you're healed when God takes you back to something and tests you and you pass the test. Because the feeling or whatever was there or whatever was happening is different than what it is now. And so sometimes you'll go back and you'll test it. Some guys are going to go back and you're going to see. Sometimes, and sometimes you want to test yourself. It's sometimes not even God testing you. It's you testing yourself to see if you can pass the test. You walk into the gym going, I'm going to do 5 more reps today than I did yesterday, right? You tested yourself. Or a coach is saying to you, you're going to do 5 more reps today than yesterday. And you go to do the 5 more, and before you did it, you did 10 more. I posted a video. Damn, God is good, y'all. I posted a video. Man, I can't make this up. There's a scene in a movie, and it's called, if you look it up on YouTube, it is called Facing the Goliath or something like that. Maybe that's the name of the movie. I don't even remember. But it's a football player, and he's on all fours, and he puts a guy on his back. And the coach says to him, I want you to do your best, and I mean do your best, and I want you to do everything that I tell you to do. So he has to listen to his authority, he has to do everything, he has to be obedient, and he has to trust him. He puts a blindfold on him, so now he has to trust what he cannot see, only what he can hear. All the football players are standing there, and they're just chilling, and they're sitting there, and they're laughing at him because he's made a fool of himself, but he is supposed to be the leader. He's supposed to be the, I don't know what you call it in football. Not the quarterback, but like the lead guy. I don't, whatever. So he says to him, I want you on all fours. And he calls this other kid over, and this other kid gets on his back. So, this is a Job moment. Think of it as Job. God gave the devil permission to push back on Job. So this teacher, this coach, this leader, told this kid, get on his back and make it harder for him. And so he did. He put a blindfold on him and said, now I want you to do what I tell you. Isn't that God and Job? Do you still trust me? No matter what I throw at you, no matter what the devil throws at you, no matter what happens, can you keep going? Can you keep hearing me? Can you stay focused? So this kid gets on all fours and he's going. And he's going. And the coach is going, keep going. Keep going. You got this. Keep going. Don't stop. And he's in his face. He's yelling at him. And he's yelling at him. And he's in. Okay, so if you've ever been in the gym and you like those kind of coaches, right on. Okay? So he's going. And he stops. And he stops on all four. And he goes, don't quit. Don't stop. He goes, I'm not. I'm just resting for a second. I just got to stop for a second. Be still. Right? You got to recharge. You got to Gotta catch your breath. You gotta redo this for a second. You gotta just wait. You're not done. You're not stopping for good. You're just holding on for a second. So then he keeps going and he's going and he's like, are we there yet? And the coach goes, don't worry about it. Keep going. I want you to keep going. And sooner or later, everybody is standing there going, oh my God. Do you see what did you see what he just did? What? And they're standing up and they're looking and they're watching him. And they're watching every move and everything that he says to them. And they're intense. And they're all looking at him and they're going, oh my God, look at the strength he has. Look at everything that he's doing. And he's going, I don't know if I can go anymore, coach. I can't do it. And the coach goes, this is all heart at this point. And he went all the way across, I don't know to where, like farther than he's ever gone before, or something like that. And he took the blindfold off and he looked and he was like, holy cow, I can't believe how far I got. And then the kid in the back says, he goes, and then you had so much weight on you. And the kid goes, well, actually, I'm this, and it was a little bit more weight or whatever. So it was a great visual of how you can look that physically, mentally, and spiritually. And you can look at that as being the one who's teaching and doing and pointing it out and telling them to keep going. And you're making that hard on them, and you're making those hard decisions, and you're making them push themselves, and you're making them do that. It's called tough love. It's called, I care about you this much that I'm going to get in your face and tell you what a freaking idiot you're being. Because that's how much I love you. Because that's how much I care about your well-being. And then there are those that are on the sidelines and they're watching and they're mimicking and they're laughing until they can't laugh anymore. Until they have to go, there's got to be more to this. Holy cow, that really is someone who can do leadership. That really is someone who can do this. That really is someone who can do that. But you had to watch them go through a process to do that, didn't you? You had to watch them hold their integrity and say, I will do the best that I can, coach, with blindfold and someone on their back, and still do it. Some of us do better under pressure. We're just born that way. But you don't know you're born that way until you go through the fire, until you go through the things, until you go through the processes of things to find out a strength that you never had or didn't know you had until you get to the other side of it. You knew it was there, but you didn't know it was there. And you didn't know to what extent it was there. And you probably will never know to what extent it's there. But you just keep doing it and you keep getting better. The same thing with your workouts. You didn't know you could lift that the way that you did. But when you did it, you went, holy cow, did you just see what I did? And they video it and everybody cheers and you ring a bell at the gym. Or you do this or you do that. Or you video it and you're like, dude, you're not going to believe it. I had a video. You wouldn't believe it unless I videoed. You wouldn't believe it unless I showed you. Right? Because your actions speak louder than your words. You can say you've done something all day long, but until people start to see that you're actually doing it, it's all hearsay. So everybody heard about Jesus until they had to see him do it. And once they saw him do it, they couldn't unsee what they saw, and they couldn't deny him anymore. And they questioned it the whole way. And every disciple had questions and this and that. And then everybody came together, but they were all at different levels. And everybody was getting different lessons, but they kept bringing disciples in. And those disciples were teaching those disciples, weren't they? I just posted a scene from Chosen about learning a lesson. God, I know where God is going with this. You cannot give up. You cannot just stop. You can always restart. But every time you restart, you're not starting from where you were. You're always going to be starting better, or you are going to keep starting from where you started because you're not making any changes to do it any different. Get out of the rut and get out of the cycle and push your way through it. No matter what's coming, no matter what's there, no matter the storm, God is preparing you for a storm you do not yet know is coming. When I worked out at the gym, you can go on your app and you can see what class is being taught or what they're going to do for that day. I never, ever went on the app. Because if I went on the app and it was something I didn't want to do, I wouldn't go to the gym. So if I didn't look at the app and I just went to the gym, I was stuck and I had to do it no matter what. And then I found a strength I didn't have and I pushed myself to a limit I didn't know. And I would do it grumbling and I would be cussing and swearing and I didn't want to be there and I didn't feel good. But by the time I was done, I felt good. I had energy I didn't know I had. I slept better that night. The whole entire bit. Everything something was just better. You have a different high. There's a different frequency. There's a different energy that you have, right? Same thing with God. God gives you an energy. He gives you a boost. He gives you a hope, a faith. He gives you something. And you just keep going with him, and you see it, and it's the little things, and the little things get bigger, and then before you know it, you just see the snowball effect. And I've talked about snowballs, and I've talked about how they roll, and what does that look like, good or bad, or you guys, I'm trying to put all the pieces together. And if you're new, and this is your first time, and I popped up, and you're going, what the heck is she talking about? I'm so sorry. You gotta go back and you gotta watch some of the other videos and start putting the pieces together. If you know me and you're watching this video, go find somebody else who knows me and ask them, because hopefully they can tell you more than I can. And this is what Jesus finally said, and this is what God said. Put it in writing and put it in a Bible, because we can't keep telling the story. Someone else has to start telling our story, because it's too much. So Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, I want you all to tell Jesus' story from your perspective. Okay, God. So they did. Because it was already written that they were going to do that. Sorry. They heard God and did and obeyed. And when Jesus said, I need you to write this down, Matthew wrote it down. When Jesus said, I need you to write this down, Luke wrote it down. Because it's so much for me to remember, I need someone else to start to tell the story. When you have a testimony, and you have people, and you have witnesses to your testimony, people have to start telling your story from their perspective. And then someone can say, that's true. I saw her here. Oh, yeah, that happened. I saw him over there. Oh, my God, do you remember this? Oh, yeah, I remember. And everybody's stories start to align. Because you held your own. You held your integrity. You held your character. You held who you were. You were honest. You were truthful. And you know what happens to people who are honest? And do you know what happens to people that are truthful? And do you know what happens to people who can lay their head at night and sleep well at night, knowing that God said, good, my faithful servant, good job, my faithful, I don't even know the words, and I'm sorry, I'm not a Bible thumper, but does that make sense? And we sleep real solid at night. You want to know why? Because we didn't have to remember our lies to tell someone else a lie to cover up that other lie. Because we didn't have to have secret meetings and gossip about other people behind their backs and then go, wait, what if she goes and tells so-and-so? What if they go and tell so-and-so? Oh, no, this can't happen. We have to separate them. I'm going here. A narcissist will never, ever want you to meet anybody else that they know. And that's why they isolate you from your family. That's why they isolate you from people. Because if you found out the truth about them, if you found out who they really were, you wouldn't want to be with them. So they have to cover that up. If you found out about the other guy or the other girl that I was with last night, the night before, I don't know how do I get away with that? What am I going to do? How am I going to do it? So you're up all night thinking of all these ways and all these plots so you don't sleep well. Maybe you're worried about your kids, or maybe you're worried about that. Maybe you need to give it to God so you can have a good night's sleep and say, I know that you've got this taken care of, God, because it's out of my control and there's nothing I can do. So for those of you that know the battles that I've been going through, yes, I'm sleeping well at night, knowing everything, all the storms, because I can sleep through my storm because I know who God is. Not because I don't care. Not because I'm a bad person, or I'm a bad this, or I'm a bad that. It's because I trust God to fight a battle that I can't fight. To fight a battle that maybe I don't know about. To fight the people who are gossiping about me and fight that battle for me. I don't have to. I don't have to defend myself. God will. You will reap what you sow. You will have karma either way. And when you're wrong, you admit your wrongs. Or did that. That's why I'm on the other side. That's why I can sit here today and help and guide and teach and show and have action and do. Because I know what it's like to be on that side. I know what it's like to see things from that perspective. And it wasn't until I found Jesus that changed my mind to find God, who has changed my heart. And I respect my body as much as I possibly can at this point. And I understand what I'm feeling, and whether I'm feeling it or I'm feeling it from somebody else, I can discern that. I know what's happening with my body, which is why I'm able to lose the weight that I am. I know when I'm fasting with God and what that looks like. Because God will sustain me, God will nourish me, God will do what needs to be done when it needs to be done, because I trust Him. I trust Him with my mind, I trust Him with my heart, and I trust Him with my body. To do what needs to be done so that I can be a vessel for Him. How are you? What is your purpose? How are you being a vessel? Do you have a ministry? Are you volunteering in a ministry where sometimes it's for hours, or you're volunteering at church and you're on your hour and you're doing more than one service and you're doing this and you're doing that? There's so many ways. Are you, do you have a physical job? Is your occupation on your feet? Are you a nurse? Are you a doctor? Are you this? Are you that? So are you on your feet? Are you a teacher? What is your purpose? And I'm not saying people who have injuries or people who can't physically work and do things. I'm not making fun of them. I'm not saying that at all. Their purpose is completely different. And I really think that their purpose is for people to serve them. And they had to go through something absolutely horrific and humble themselves in probably ways they've never had to before in order to allow somebody to come in and help them. Does that make sense? I mean, look at these veterans and what they go through, and they're having to now have people like help them go to the bathroom. And it's very sad. It's very sad. And so if you are a caretaker or you are a nurse, remember the other perspective of that when you're taking care of them. When you're a nurse and you're in a hospital and someone's in a hospital bed, remember they're the sick one. Quit being a jerk. Quit being a bitch. Quit being an asshole. They're hurting. Something's not right. They're scared. Don't say that they're a horrible patient. Don't say, God, they're impossible. They're hurting. They're scared. And when they're scared, they're going to get angry. You're supposed to be their peace in their storm. When your spouse, when your child, when you're so-and-so, whenever somebody is going through something, you're supposed to be the rock solid one in that moment. And I guarantee you God will make it that way. When you are weak, I am strong, and vice versa. But you got to be able to know each other, and you got to know your patience. You got to know what you're doing. You got to be conscious to other people. You have to take your ego, take your pride, and take your selfishness out sometimes and go, okay, what do you need from me right now? What do you need from me? What do you want? And some people can tell you that and some can't. Some don't know what they need. Some don't know what they want. So you sit with them. You don't have to have the answers for them because they don't have the answers. So we sit with them. Now, if you're the person who isn't used to having somebody sit with you, it's very awkward. To have somebody ask you questions and show that they care in a different way is very awkward to people at first. Who have had trauma, who have had a whole bunch of things happen to them. You come in and what we now call peace, but to them is uncomfortable. But the more time that you spend with them, the more what used to be uncomfortable becomes comfortable. But chaos and trauma and drama are a high that they're used to. So when you come in completely opposite of what they know, there's a lot of interpretations about who you are. Until they want to know more. So when you come across and you get attacked, you back off. You don't get offended. You don't get angry because they don't know what I'm just trying to help means. They don't know I'm just trying to be here for you. They don't know what that means. Someone comes from physical abuse and you go to put your hand on their shoulders and they go like this, right? It's a trauma reaction. But when they get to know you, or you feel that it's time because God will say to you and you might go, is it okay if I give you a hug? Yeah, okay. It's a new feeling for them. So at first it's probably very uncomfortable for them. I grew up in a house that did not hug. You can ask my sister. I never hugged her. And that is probably one of the worst hurts I've ever done to my sister. And now when I go to see her, I give her like the biggest hugs. And now, and before, even when I was still uncomfortable with hugs, she didn't care. She'd just come up and grab me and hug me and say, you don't have a choice. That's my sister. But do you see the different sides of that? So what you think is somebody offending you or somebody hurting you is somebody's survival mode. Is somebody's uncomfortable zone. You got to ease into it with them, you guys. You just can't come off. You can't just open the flood doors. It's not a horse race. You can't just go, whoa. You know what I mean? This is where Bible thumping comes in. This is why people look at evangelists differently and weird. Because they come in like a wrecking ball. They come in like a hurricane. And it's too much for people. And you go, holy cow. You got to know your audience. You got to know your people. You got to know who you're talking to. The very first thing that I did on my new job working with people was nothing. Well, what are you talking about? You did nothing. I watched. I observed. I listened. I needed to know their names and who's who. And Chef literally put all the staff together, introduced me to the staff, and when he pointed to his head sous chef, he said, this is his kitchen. It's not mine. I thought, that is leadership at its finest. I was so impressed with that. And he said, even when I'm here, it's his kitchen. He knows where everything is more than I do. Because when you get to be an executive chef, You are taking care of the emails, the menu, what this looks like. You're not, and he, let me tell you, I am not saying this at all. He will get his hands in and get dirty. Let me tell you, he jumps in before anybody else does. Executive chef does. So don't get me wrong. This is what makes him a brilliant leader. He doesn't care about, he is all about digging in, getting dirty, doing what he has to do. He will get right in there with us and do what we have to do and make sure we're caught up and make sure what's this and make sure what's that. And absolutely. But he takes absolutely no credit for it. He says this is his kitchen. He knows his kitchen better than I do. Go to him before you come to me. I was like, that's insane. But he's showing me great leadership skills. Don't take credit for what God is doing. That's all God. Support one another. Don't be jealous of one another and just be like, good job, that's great. So when we had the staff meeting, then he's introducing all the staff and he says all this, and I'm learning everybody's names and this and that. So, well, one of the head chefs, he comes to me and he goes, I have a job I need you to do. And I said, okay, sure. And he goes, it's a girly job. And I started laughing and I said, okay. He goes, I don't mean to offend you. And I go, no, I think I know what you mean. I said, you're, and I said his name and he goes, yeah. And I said, you're the sous chef, right? And he goes, yeah. And I said, let me guess, you're really good at barbecuing, doing the grill. And he looks at me and he goes, that's exactly what I do here. And I said, I can tell. He even takes the meat home and he has a whole barbecue thing at home and he will slow cook it for hours, like 20 hours something at home, and then bring it to work and do what needs to be done with it and the whole bit and serve it. He'll take the food home and cook it. Like that, it's insane to me. And so I knew what his strength was. So when he said, I have a girly job for you, it's because he needs a tray or a platter done up all pretty. And he doesn't have that mindset. He's a man. He barbecues. He isn't looking at decor. You get what I'm saying? And so I said, oh no. And I explained that to him and he goes, oh, you totally get me. And I said, yeah. And he's the one who calls me Hurricane Katrina now. But anyways, so I get to do the foofy stuff. And so I do the meat and platter trays and we did pizzas and putting the toppings on the pizzas and I don't know, I've done a couple different things now. And so some salads and some relish trays, with all the pickles and lettuce and make them all look all pretty, that kind of thing. That was actually the first thing I did the first day I was here. And so, so you get to know what everybody's is. And so then we have another lady and she does most of the baking stuff. And so she'll bake the cookies, she'll make all the desserts, she'll do all that part. And that's like her thing. You know what I mean? So everybody has a niche. Everybody has a thing. Well, when you're new, you're a floater. You're the helping hand. You're the one who gets all the tools. You're the one who goes, hey, can you hand me that? Yeah. So how are you supposed to do that if you don't know the kitchen? So when you go into a new job, you got to know all the equipment. You got to know where everything is. You got to understand. So in my job, I had to know the fridge, the freezer, the dry stuff. You have to know where everything is. So when the level's high and when things are going chaotic and you're feeding 600 people and you have to get everything out there by a certain time and it has to be hot and ready and beautiful looking, everybody has to come together and everybody has to throw it all together and everybody has to know their place and you do an assembly line and everybody's got to know what everybody is doing. So you're talking out loud, you're like this, hey, behind you. When you're a waitress, you learn the same thing. You learn behind you, door open, you have to speak it, you have to communicate so that someone on the other side doesn't get hit and the tray doesn't hit them. You have to communicate. They communicate on the field in football. They communicate in sports. You have to constantly be communicating. They communicate in the military. Everybody knows their spot. Everybody knows their job. Whatever your strength is, that's the job or the purpose that you should be doing. Because I guarantee you have a gifting and a purpose that will exceed your expectations and you can do more than you ever thought was possible because it was given to you by God when He created you. But you have to be prepared for the storms. I have to be prepared to know where everything is in the kitchen. So when I am needed, when I need to step up, when I am being asked to do something, when the eyes are on me, I am prepared for that because I know what's coming. And if we have a man down or someone calls in sick and there's not someone there to bake, hey, I know how to do it. So-and-so showed me. Sweet, I need you to do that today. Maybe she's off and I'm on. Hey, can you hit the fryer? Have you done the fryer before? Yes, I've done the fryer. Awesome. I need you to do the fryer. I'm going to send so-and-so home. He's been here for so many hours and he's the only other one that knows how to do the fryer, but he's exhausted and I got to send him home. Can you do that? Absolutely, chef. Shit, even if you can't do it, figure it out. I mean, you won't know unless you do it. You won't know what you can do until you do it, and you may not be perfect at it, but you at least tried. Try food that you've never had before. Try something you've never had before. Go out of your comfortable zone and do something you've never done before. You either are going to like it more than you thought, or you're going to hate it and you'll never do it again. But at least you can say you tried it. Maybe some things make you sick, and you go, I will never have that again. You can look at that on 20 bazillion different levels. Are you guys getting where I'm going with everything now? Hold on. Hold on. Keep going. Keep going. There's a difference in your muscles when you've worked out versus the muscles when you hurt yourself, right? The hurt so good versus I'm in so much pain, I can't even lift my shoulder. I'm in so much pain. That's different than this hurts so good, right? If you're a gym person, that makes sense to you. When you go through something and you made it through, it hurt. There was a lot of pain that you had to go through, but damn, that hurt so good. Because you learn from that. You got a lesson out of that. Sometimes your ego and your pride and your stubbornness makes this 10 times as long as it needs to. And you go through way more crap than you need to. And you hurt more people along the line than you need to. If you would have just done what you were supposed to do in the first place, if you would have just discerned, if you would have just listened to the Holy Spirit, if you wouldn't, shoulda, coulda, woulda. So the next time this comes around, those shoulda, coulda, woulda should be right there in front of you, and you should say, I remember now. I'm not going to do this time. Because last time this happened, I learned a lesson. We say new level, new devil. He will get in your mind way deeper than he did before. So you have to go way deeper to figure things out and to work through them to beat the devil. You have to be willing to open up your heart after all the trauma and all the pain and say love is worth that. But this time, you know what you want. So you didn't have to go through a buffet. You didn't have to go through 50,000 options to figure out what you wanted. You just were still and worked on yourself and did what you needed to do to find out what you wanted. And now you won't take anything less because you already know what you want. So you don't have to date around. You don't have to fool around. You don't have to do 50,000 things. You don't have to keep going back to the buffet and getting bigger and hurting and saying, I ate too much, I'm going to be sick, or saying, I just gained 10 pounds. You don't have to do that to yourself this time now, do you? Maybe as you're getting healthier, the foods you used to eat, you go back and eat now, and they're not as good, and they don't taste as good, and they're salty, and they're crappy, and they're fake, or they're processed, and so your body can't take them anymore because your body is changing, and so you're getting all the toxins out of you. So you can't put the toxins back in because they make you sick. Let's go to addiction. Same concept. You're not going to be perfect at it. You're going to relapse. But hopefully when you relapse this time, you go, that was worse. That tasted gross. That cigarette was gross. I no longer want to smoke. But you got to get there. And you're going to fall. And you're going to do a lot until you get there. You're going to work out for the first time and you're out of breath and you're sweating and you can't handle it and you think you need water until you can get through a whole hour and you don't have to stop and get water. You just want to keep going and get the workout done. Because you don't want to pause anymore. You just want to keep going and you want to get it done. This happens a lot with guys who work outside. They don't take breaks. They don't stop. They just keep going because they just want to get it done. When they're done, they will rehydrate. They will rest their body. They will go to bed early. They don't eat throughout the day because if they eat, it makes it heavy and it makes them too tired. And so then by the time the afternoon comes, they can't get the job done. So a lot of people will just throw some protein, or they'll just do something real quick, or they'll grab something at the gas station while they're getting another drink, or something along those lines. But you don't see them sitting down having a full meal. They'll never make it through the workday. That's a lot of labormen that do this. It's very common. That's why they say breakfast is the most important part of the day. What you eat for breakfast gives you the energy to get through the day. You know, when my ex-husband had a contracting company, they all came to our house and got in our trucks and they all left and they went. And I fed them. I did protein shakes for them, and I got all the different flavors and all the different ones, because they didn't really want to eat. They didn't want to eat anything heavy. I mean, at first it was like I would make breakfast burritos, or I would make something along those lines. They'd take them on the road and they go. But then after a while, they're just like, hey, you got any of those protein shakes? I'm like, yeah. And so then I stocked up on the protein shakes, and everybody started to drink the protein shakes in the morning, and they all got their favorite flavors, and and they did their thing, and they started to take those instead of breakfast burritos. And so then they had protein in them, and they were getting through the day, and then they would have a little light lunch, or they would do something, or some of them didn't eat, and then they go home and eat, But I always made sure dinner was high protein. And so that when my ex-husband came home, he got that protein that he needed and the carb, because I bred it up. You know what I mean? They're boys. You got to give them their pastas. You got to do that. You know what I'm saying? But you learn that. So when you learn that in the labor trade, you also learn that spiritually. You learn to fast. Fasting is very common in weight loss. And so and everybody knows about intermediate fasting. Everybody knows about this. When you do it spiritually, you spend more time with God on a different level, and He sustains you. He gives you everything that you need because you're on a different level with Him. Your body is not normal in those times. It's supernatural, which is why it says in the Bible it's a supernatural. It's not natural human form. It's supernatural. But this is where people say, this is crazy, this is witchcraft, this is that. No, it's not. No, it's not. I'm going to leave this here. I've been on for an hour. Zoom it out. I'm done. I'm tired. I've been spiritual all day. I need to rest my body. I love you guys. Bye.